In early 2026, a mid-size company set up an AI agent to handle their procurement requests. It was a standard setup until the agent encountered a glitchy vendor checkout API that returned an inconsistent response. The agent did exactly what it was programmed to do. It tried again and again. In just 3 minutes, the system entered a retry loop and submitted 12 identical purchase requests at $399 each. The company had set monthly spending caps, but because their policy engine evaluated every transaction individually, there was no real-time check on how fast these requests were firing. It took 5 days, during a routine accounting reconciliation, for a human to notice the error. By then, the damage was nearly $5,000. The model didn't hallucinate, it didn't go off task, and it didn't need a better prompt. It just needed a circuit breaker. Every system involved followed its instructions perfectly, which reveals how a perfectly obedient system can drain an account in minutes without a rigorous control layer. We are currently seeing immense corporate intent to scale these systems. Recent survey data from Deloitte indicates that nearly 3/4 of directors and C-suite leaders expect highly agentic AI to be deployed in their organizations within 2 years. But the reality on the ground contradicts that optimism. Frontier models are now capable of completing complex tasks that take a human roughly 50 minutes to do manually. Yet the vast majority of AI agents actually running in production are kept on a very tight leash, limited to workflows of 10 steps or fewer. Enterprises prioritize verified, safe action over raw intelligence. Scaling requires a guarantee that every action an agent takes is audible and within policy. Generating a text answer or a line of code is now fast and cheap. The real bottleneck is rigorous evaluation and hard verification, proving that an output won't cause irreversible harm before it is allowed to execute. This equation maps the economic constraint on scaling AI, the autonomy tax. To calculate the actual ROI for an enterprise agent, take the gross benefit and subtract 3 hidden compounding costs: the human bandwidth tax, the incident tax, and the governance tax. The first subtraction, the human bandwidth tax, happens because AI tools act as a massive amplifier for junior-level output. That increased volume of work still requires verification, and AI does not instantly scale your expert review capacity. We can see this in open-source software engineering. After the introduction of code generation tools, less experienced contributors submitted significantly more code, but the core senior developers had to spend so much time reviewing those new submissions that their own original code output dropped by 19%. Instead of freeing up your most experienced people to do high-level work, the influx of AI-generated content forces them to become full-time proofreaders. Then there is the incident tax. As you grant an AI more autonomy, broader tool access, and persistent memory, the attack surface expands exponentially. In controlled lab studies, agents have successfully reported they completed a task while the actual system state contradicted their reports entirely, which leads directly to the governance tax. If you cannot reconstruct why your agent took an action, you are dealing with an active incident response liability. Secure by design governance has to be built in from day one. It cannot be treated as a patch applied after the system ships. When something breaks, these 3 costs cascade. A single uncontrolled action triggers an investigation, which exposes a lack of trace locks, which then forces your top engineers to stop building new products to contain the fallout. These taxes do not simply add up, they multiply. Organizations are rushing to deploy autonomous systems long before they have the infrastructure to quantify the financial exposure of actually managing them. The overarching goal for many in the industry right now is reaching level 4 autonomy, agents operating entirely on their own without human oversight. There is one widely cited exception where high autonomy proved effective. A major AI assistant recently handled over 2 million customer service conversations in 1 month. But that deployment worked because it met very specific economic conditions. The cost of an individual error was practically zero, and any mistaken action was easily reversible. If you drop that same autonomous agent into a corporate legal or procurement environment, a single misdirected approval could wipe out a year of efficiency gains. For the vast majority of core enterprise operations, placing trust in highly autonomous, unconstrained agents simply does not make economic sense. This schematic illustrates the necessary architectural downgrade, level 2.5 autonomy. Here, the agent operates within a fixed sequence. It can still reason and iterate, but its inputs and outputs are strictly typed contracts, and it must pass through hard human evaluation gates. This approach relies on a set of rules known as the boring stack doctrine. You constrain the routing, you restrict any external actions behind non-bypassable policy gates, and you enforce strict budgets on how many times the AI can retry a task. Rigid constraints and non-bypassable gates provide the only viable path to production. Shipping safely requires this level of control discipline. By 2027, the competitive advantage belongs to the organizations with the most rigorous control layers. While base model intelligence will continue to improve, the ability to manage the autonomy tax determines which agents actually get to work.